Best Bites Forever.
Hey everyone, it's Chef Alicia, and today I'm going to show you how to make sofrito. This is a basic fresh recipe for sofrito, but I will also be going over how to cook it if you would prefer to have a cooked recipe. So I'm going to start off here with 2 bulbs of garlic, which obviously I have already peeled, and I'm going to put them into my food processor and pulse them until they look like this. Obviously you can also do it by hand, but if you have a food processor, this will be much quicker. Once your garlic is done, put it into a large bowl and set it to the side, and let's move on to our bell pepper. For the bell pepper, I simply cut down the sides of it to get it into pieces, and try not to break that seed packet into a million little pieces. And I put that over to the side for my tortoise because he likes those, so he'll be having a treat later. And then just try to get all of the little seeds that are still hanging out on your bell pepper out of there. You can leave them in if they don't bother you. To me, they cook up a little bitter, so I try to get them out. And I'm going to do this to a total of 5 bell peppers. Once I get my bell peppers cut into pieces, I'm going to put them a few at a time into my food processor, and again, just pulse them until they look something like this. So they're going to be a little juicier than your garlic, of course, because they have more juice in them. But don't make bell pepper juice. You still want to make sure it's chunky like this. And then kind of go through and see that little chunk I just pulled out. You just want to make sure if there are any of those that you get them out and you put them back in the food processor. So now let's move on to our onion. I'm going to start by trimming off the ends of my onion. And I have a pretty big one here, so I'm going to cut it in half and then peel it, of course. You don't want to leave the peel on. And then I'm going to cut each half into thirds. So I'm going to do a total of 2 onions here, but I have large onions, like I said. If yours are really small, you might want to add 1 more. And the reason I'm cutting it into thirds before it goes in my food processor is so I get a nice even chop. What I have here is called recao, and pardon my pronunciation because I know it's a lot prettier, but it's this beautiful herb that looks like this. And you can add as much or as little as you want, but I really love the flavor of it, so I'm going to add 1 whole bunch. That's this whole container of recao into my sofrito. So when I add it, I put it in with my onions, because if you put it into the food processor by itself, it doesn't quite chop as well. But if you add it in there with something that's a little bit juicy like your onions, or you could put it in with your bell peppers if you wanted to as well. But if you put it in with something else, it tends to chop up better. And as you can see, one of my little guys is hanging out there on the top, but it's no big deal because I have a couple batches of onions to do, and I'm just going to add him in with the next batch. So here are my onions and my recao that they are mixed together, and this is my last little batch. I'm going to go ahead and add it to the other ingredients. Some other things that people like to add into their sofrito are olives, oregano, cilantro, sweet chili peppers, and I'm sure that there are a few other things out there, but I don't add them in because I like to be able to add them individually into my recipe, so that way I can control the amounts a little more. Now at this point, if you wanted to make a cooked sofrito, you would take a 1/4 pound of salt pork and 6 ounces of ham and saute those together, and then add this mixture and saute it together for about another 10 minutes. At that point, you would want to cool it and store it. You have another choice also to do a cooked sofrito, which is to place all of these ingredients into a caldero, or that's just a heavy pot, with some oil, and bring it to a boil, and then simmer it for about 20 minutes, and you want to make sure that you stir it up occasionally while you're doing this. Again, I like to keep my sofrito fresh, so I don't cook it. It cooks when you make the recipe, but that is totally up to you. You can do it either way. Just keep in mind, if you're following my recipes, that I am using a fresh sofrito. Okay, so once you are done making your sofrito, whichever way you choose to do it, I find the best thing to do is to divide it up into portions and put those portions into baggies. So I put 1 cup at a time into sandwich bags, and then I put those sandwich bags into a gallon freezer bag, and I put that into the freezer so it's always ready for me. If you would like this recipe, please join me at bestbitesforever.com. Thank you for watching, and happy cooking, everyone.
bestbitesforever.com